What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Start With Today podcast. My name is Jeff Schaefer, and I'm so excited that you decided to tune in today. For those of you who don't know, Start With Today was founded upon the idea that we can't go back and change our past. We can't look forward into the future and predict exactly what's to come and know every single step that we'll face along the way. But what we can do is take each day as a gift, enjoy the people God's placed in our lives, enjoy every moment, and most of all, take advantage of every opportunity He gives us. I can't wait to dive into today's episode. I hope it speaks to you, I hope it encourages you, and I hope you'll join us next week. So with that being said, let's jump in and let's start with today. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Start With Today podcast. So excited you joined me today. After a week off, I hope everybody enjoyed the holiday. 4th of July weekend, had time with family, friends. I hope you were able to just relax, have some fun, and just take some time off from the craziness of life. I know I was able to. I was able to see some family, some friends, and it was a much needed kind of just break from everything. It was weird not putting an episode out. It was the first week I've missed in 3 months, and I just didn't. I wanted everybody to, enjoy the holiday, but as it got to crunch time, the episode I had ready, it wasn't as up to par as I usually have it, and I just figured, you know what, let's take the weekend, recoup, and come back with a good one next week. And so this week, I think I have a really cool, interesting conversation to share. This was something my mom brought up to me, and it kind of really stuck with me. And so I want to start with a question. And how many times in your life have you been asked the following? Hey, are you listening to me? Do you hear me? Do you hear the words coming out of my mouth? Listen to me. Whether a teacher, a parent, anybody in your life that's communicated with you and asked you those questions, my guess is that everybody has at least heard that once. And the words hearing and listening, they sound similar, and we're taught that the meanings are similar. We hear when the words hear or listen come out of someone's mouth, our instinct is to think of just hearing the words, to be able to receive the words that someone's saying. But I think there's a distinct difference between the two, and I truly believe that if more people understood the differences between listening and hearing, that we would see a massive shift in our culture, our faith, and in our communities. So let's start with hearing. The dictionary definition of hearing is the faculty of perceiving sounds. So again, that's just receiving sound. Someone says something, we're able to process it and understand it. We're able to just receive what they're saying. And this is, again, what most of us think of when we think of hearing, just being able to receive the sounds and words and process them. And obviously that's important in our day-to-day lives as human beings, whether it's just relationships with friends or a spouse, whoever, or in jobs, in education, whatever it looks like. Being able to hear somebody and understand what they're saying is a necessity. It's an essential skill that we have to have in life. But believe it or not, hearing is also a humongous part of our faith and our relationship with God. In Romans 10:17, it says, "So faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ." Being able to hear God speak into your life, being able to, understand what He's saying to you, whether it's through prayer or just your alone time with Him or through His word, it's so crucial to your relationship with Him, because a lot of times He's going to tell you and speak into you where you should be focusing right now so that you guys can take the next step in your relationship. So let's look at another example. The ongoing racial injustices in our country. We hear the cries for help, the calls for change, and the pain that has come from years of, oppression. Our brothers and sisters in the Black community are hurting, and it is time for us to stand up. And I've talked about this, I think 2 or 3 other episodes, but it's so important. And it's, the media has brought it down a little bit, but the problem's still persistent. It hasn't gotten any better, and we should never let it go, because it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so I want to use this example again, because like I said, we hear these things. We hear the issues. We hear the calls for change, the cries for help. So in this example, as well as the spiritual example I gave, if we just hear these things, but we do nothing about them, we hear these things, but we don't act, I hear God telling me to do this, but I don't want to. I'm just going to listen, and I'm just going to hear what he's saying, and I'm not going to obey. I'm not going to move. I hear my brothers and sisters in the Black community asking me to help, asking me to stand up, saying that it's time for change, but somebody else will get it. I hear them, but I'm not going to do anything about it. If we do that, we're never going to see progress. We're never going to see change. We're never going to see reform. We're never going to see growth in our relationship with God if we don't act on what we hear. And so now I want to talk about what it means to listen. The dictionary definition of listening is to take notice and act on what someone says. Now that first part, take notice, that's the hearing. That's the hearing portion of listening. I take notice. I hear what they're saying. They've got my attention. It's noted. I can process what they've said. The listening part is to act on. That's the difference. Taking what you hear and doing something about it. Because like I said, if we just hear things in our lives, and this can be applied to so many situations, not just our faith, not just social issues, anything in your day-to-day life. If you listen, if you're just hearing what people are saying and not doing anything about it, nothing's going to be accomplished. But when you listen and take notice and then act on what they're saying, that's when you're going to see change. That's when you're going to see something accomplished. That's when you're going to see progress being made in whatever conversation you're having. If we just hear and don't actually listen, we will never see change. Socially, in our communities, in our families, in our own lives, in our faith, in our occupation, in our education, in our physical and mental health, if we don't actually listen to what people are saying and to what God's saying to us, we're never going to see change. We'll stay stagnant. You know, for me, if I just heard God, you know, I shared my testimony. A couple years ago, I was at rock bottom and doing this, that, and the other. And if I had just heard God and didn't listen, if I didn't act on what he said to me, I'd probably still be using alcohol to this day to get through life. I'd probably still be turning to the bottle to deal with everything I had going on in my life. But I listened. If we don't listen to our brothers and sisters in the Black community, we won't be able to create change. If we just hear them, but we don't do anything about it, then we're part of the problem because we're not doing anything to make an attempt at making progress because we're not actually listening. Listening is taking what you hear and acting on it, doing something about what someone's told you. Be the change you want to see in the world. We hear that so much. And if you tell me that wasn't on a poster in one of your high school teachers' classrooms, you're lying. Be the change you want to see in the world. And it's so corny, but it's so true. But how do we do that? By listening. By not just hearing what someone says and letting it go in one ear and out the other, but actually processing it and acting on it and doing something to take a step forward in the right direction. And that doesn't mean it's easy. It is not easy to actually take something that someone's saying, right? And to just, okay, well, I'm going to listen to them. No, we're humans. We have a lot of questions. But there's always that little part of us in our gut and in our spirit. And a lot of times that's God saying, hey, you need to actually listen. You need to act on this. And I think we're all at the age where we can do that. We have to make sacrifices in our life, and sometimes that means listening and acting on things when we don't feel like it, but we know it's the right thing to do. Because that's what God calls us to do. That's what the Bible says multiple times. That's what he calls us to do. And again, I'm not here to push my faith on you. If that's not your thing, then let me say this. Part of being a good human being is listening to the people around you and being a good person, helping out when you know that you can do something, listening and hearing what someone has to say and acting on it, actually listening to them. That's part of being a good human being. That's part of having good character. So either way, whether you want to look at the spiritual approach and say, you know what, this is how God calls us to live. Like, I haven't been doing that. Now's the time. And if you still are just like, that's not for me, all good. I'm not judging. But part of being a good human being is listening and not just hearing. So I hope that kind of sparks your curiosity a little bit and gives you something to think about. I know as I was kind of taking notes and talking to my mom about it, it got me thinking a little bit of just about certain areas of my life where I've maybe fallen short. And maybe I've just been hearing instead of actually listening to people. Also, before I end the episode, I just want to take a minute or so to just kind of talk about the next steps of Start With Today. The next week or so, I'll be filming and producing some content to kind of launch season 2. So what that's going to look like, and I know I've mentioned this before, is probably within the next 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, I'm going to take a 2-week break. There will be no new episodes. I may put stuff on, social media, but no new episodes will be out. We're going to launch the Start With Today Instagram page, which we still don't have. So we're going to do that. We're talking about maybe doing a Twitter as well, but I don't know if that'd be as useful. There's not a lot of engagement from you guys on there, so I think we're just going to go with a separate Instagram page and continue with the Facebook page. We're getting some video pieces ready to put out so I can put snippets on social media throughout the week instead of those boring, annoying Instagram stories. And so the plan is after that 2-week break, we're going to launch Start With Today as season 2. I have some special guests that are going to be coming on in the fall, which I'm super excited about. Some of you may know them, some of you may not. But stay tuned for that because God's doing some incredible things. And I'm excited to share that with you guys. So thank you for all your support. Thank you for being patient and for waiting an extra week for a new episode. I can't wait to talk to you next Monday and to continue to share updates with you as we make progress on season 2 of the podcast. Thank you for the support, and I'll talk to you guys next Monday.